Hi everybody, how's it going? Can I get a little test on a comment to see if everybody is able to hear me okay? We'll see if it loads. Anyway, in the meantime, until I get some feedback to maybe see if everyone can hear me okay, my name is Kenzie. I am a seasonal interpreter here at Prairie Creek Redwood State Park. I am alongside the beautiful Pacific West. I'm at the ocean right now, currently within Redwood National and State Park. So it looks like Marissa can hear me. Thank you so much. I am so excited. Today could not have been a better day when it comes to the weather. We have zero wind. We have perfect little tiny baby waves behind us. And we also have some harbor porpoises. Now today that isn't going to be my topic of conversation in the story that I will be sharing, but I do think it's a crazy cool opportunity for us. So keep peeking in the background and you might see some beautiful harbor porpoises. But the story I do have to tell today is about a little friend called a gray whale. I'm so glad that you guys can hear me, so I'll continue. So, some of you may know that the California state mammal, marine mammal, is a gray whale. So this is the story I will be telling you today. Last week when I was at this exact location, I saw a gray whale for the first time myself, and I have my fingers hoped and crossed and hoping that we'll see some today. So yeah, go ahead and feel free to tell us where you're tuning in from. I would love to know if you're on the coast or if you're inland. A great opportunity for us to all learn together. So anyway, that being said, I want to thank all the state park staff and volunteers and the visitors who are coming to our parks for practicing social distancing. Thank you so very much. So with that being said, I am so excited to share with you my biggest passion in life, which is whales and dolphins both. I have been studying them since I was 3 years old and have been so wildly in love and obsessed with whales and orcas and dolphins. So today is just a lot of fun information I get to share with you from my whole entire life. So that being said, right here you can see a gray whale, and he is breaching, he or she is currently breaching in this image. So I'll go ahead and start off with a little bit of stories for you about what the gray whales are and what their migration periods kind of look like. So if you look right here on this image, I think you guys should be able to see because today is just a great day. So right here is going to be the west coast of North America, going into Alaska and going down south to Baja. And Baja will be a very great little part of our journey together on this migration story just a little bit later. So this is going to be called the Eastern North Pacific population of gray whales. This is going to be the largest population of gray whales also. Then you have over here, they have the Trans-Pacific population, which they go to both sides. And then over on this side, you have a very small population called the Western North Pacific population. So I'm gonna zoom in for just a moment and let you guys kind of see that. Hello from Sacramento. So glad to have you guys tuning in with us today. So, as you can see here, this is gonna be a little bit zoomed in on the west coast of North America. So, as you can see, the gray whales, they spend their whole summers feeding up here in Alaska, and then they come all the way down here to mate and to breed down in Baja, California. So I will be sharing with you a little bit more. I'm gonna zoom in on the whale image just so you guys can have an image, or maybe I'll just step off so you can look at the ocean for a moment. Let's see. So the population that I will be speaking about today is actually the Eastern Pacific population, that larger population. There are now 26,000 gray whales, and prior, and I'll get into it just a little bit, they were actually almost on the endangered species list, and now they are thriving and doing well. So they have a lifespan of 40 to 80 years, which is so magnificent, and they weigh 70,000 pounds. So if you can think about that, 70,000 pounds and the length of 50 feet, that means that they're the size of a school bus, right? Some of us might be going back to school. Unfortunately, we're probably not going in school buses. But next time you see a school bus, I encourage you to just think about, wow, if I was under the ocean right now, I might be seeing something the size of a school bus, which would be a gray whale. Also, that being said, when babies are born, they are born at 15 feet in length and they weigh 2,000 pounds. Could you imagine carrying a baby in your belly for 12 months is the gestation period of a gray whale, and they live in their tummies for 12 months and they get to be 2,000 pounds at birth. So that being said, I'm gonna go over the whole body of a gray whale for you, starting with, let me go get my little, I have some props for you, 1 second. All right. So, this is my little friend here that we're gonna call the gray whale of the ocean today. We're gonna pretend that anywhere below the sea on the sand is gonna be us diving underneath, and anywhere popping up is gonna be us if we were actually in the ocean, okay? So starting with this whale, you'll see the front of it, their mouths are made out of what is called baleen. So they are not toothed like killer whales. They have baleen, and I actually have this super awesome visual for you guys. So this is a piece of baleen that we had at Prairie Creek Redwood State Park, and I am so excited to show you it. So if everyone can do something for me, go ahead and look at your fingernails. Mine are a little dirty because I've been on the beach for a little bit, but if you look at your fingernails and feel that fingernail, right? This is actually gonna be almost the consistency of a whale baleen, right? So they go from about 3 inches at the base, you know, say this is my mouth, and then they thin out all the way to the point, and this would be what is considered the vacuum. So baleen, gray whales will go and they'll be within 5 miles of the ocean, like the perimeter of the shoreline, and they're actually feed off of the very, very bottom. So you'll see that if you see a gray whale coming up, they'll go up for, 15 seconds to take a breath, and then they'll dive back down deep, just like this, right? So they'll be going down and then they'll feed, and basically this baleen functions as a vacuum. So the whale will be going down and it'll suck up all of this phytoplankton and zooplankton. So phytoplankton being marine plants, phytoplankton being marine, zooplankton being marine animals, and then also amphipods. So you'll see them going down, and then this beautiful, beautiful filtration system of 150 different little baleens will go through and kind of work as a vacuum. You know, when you go and you push your vacuum, how it rolls and it sucks through. So that is what happens when they consume all of this. They're called the mudsuckers of the sea. They're also known to be called devilfish, which is very funny, and it's not very relevant now because I will get into that in just a bit. So anyway, they'll go and they'll be along the bottom of the sea, and then they can go down feeding for up to 15 minutes at a time, which is so crazy to think that these mammals that breathe the same exact air as us through their blowhole, which is right here, you can see that unlike orcas who have 1 blowhole, this one has 2. So they can spray out when they come up for oxygen. Up to 12 feet of water, of mist will come up from there. And then you can see their eyes currently here, and then their little fins. And then instead of having a dorsal fin like a bottlenose dolphin or like an orca, you can see here that there are these little humps, and those are called the dorsal humps, and they work kind of like knuckles. So let's go ahead and look at our knuckles. You see how we have all these little knuckles, right? Imagine that being going towards the tail, right? The tail fluke of a whale. Going down, they can have up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they'll have anywhere from 6 to 12 of these little humps, and that's also how that you can tell what they are. Another way that you can identify a gray whale is that the gray whale will often have these barnacles and orange sea lice that is growing on them, often on the right side of their body, because when they feed, they actually dive down, right? So remember, I'm under the ocean with you guys right now. So we dive down and they feed, they turn on their side, and they work like that vacuum and suck up all of that food, and then they filter it out, and then they come up for air, and then they'll do the same thing for a period of about 4 different times of doing that in one feeding station. So that being said, I would like to transition into telling you more about the migration. So they start off in Alaska. Let me go ahead and pull this out for you. Sorry, I have a lot of stuff. So you'll see that in this migration, right? So in the early fall, the gray whales will begin their 6,000 mile. Can you believe that they travel 12,000 miles to go down all the way to Baja in the spring to mate? So in around October, they'll start heading down, September actually, they'll start heading down from Alaska, and then they'll pass through the Oregon coast, Washington, all the way down here through Southern California into Mexico, and then arrive in about late January. And until late January through February, they'll be having their mating season, or they'll be breeding and having their calves, right? The babies are called calves. And then they'll start their trek back north up into the waters that they call home during the summer times to feed. And another fun fact that I've recently learned about while being an employee here at Prairie Creek is that we have about 200 resident gray whales that live here. So what that means is, instead of going all the way north to Alaska, right, 200 or so whales actually call the Pacific Northwest coast, you know, somewhere between Humboldt and Southern Oregon home. Instead of going all the way up to Alaska, they have enough habitat that is successful for them to thrive in this general area. So I think that's an example as to why I was able to see them last week during the summertime here. So that being said, they'll travel all the way south, and they'll go through, you know, Southern California and into Baja and mate. And on their way back up, the mothers and calves, they'll go at about a 3 mile per hour rate heading north, instead of on the way down where they go about 5 miles per hour. So they'll take their times. The mother and the calf will go together. They usually go ahead. And they'll go ahead and kind of learn in these like smoother, kind of like the ocean here today. This is a rare day on the Pacific Northwest coast where it's very much cruisy, tiny little waves. And so down in Southern California, a great point that they can find like as a playground would be like Dana Point. And you can often see them doing what I'll show you. So, all right, so here's my mama whale. And here's my baby whale, right? So they often will travel together, and they'll do things like what is called spy hopping, right? So this is my ocean. They come up and they kind of like cruise, and they check around and they look around. That's what is called spy hopping. And then you might see them come all the way up, 3/4 of their body come all the way up, and that would be called breaching. And then you might see them when they dive down deep, right? So they're feeding and they go all the way down. You might have a chance of seeing their tail flukes stick out. That's called fluking, and that's when, oh, I love it, someone from Dana Point, I'm just talking about it. So you'll see their tail flukes sticking out. And so often the babies, you know, when they're juveniles and then when they're younger, they will often be the ones that are coming out of the water and breaching or spy hopping. And Dana Point is known to be a very great whale watching location. So if you guys are kind of curious on some history about whales, when I was a freshman in college many years ago, I did my very first research paper actually on gray whales. And I did it on a whaling station in Trinidad, 20 minutes south of here. And there actually was a whaling station where they collected up to 50 barrels of oil per day from a whale. And during that time, it was 1920 to 1927, they only collected one whale. And you can actually see the image right here. So this is the only gray whale that they were actually able to capture and use for oil and fertilizer actually too at that time. But when this whale was processed, they ended up actually getting shut down and closing completely, which is now a restaurant that stands at that point. Because in 1935, gray whales were the first protected by the League of Nations. They were given full protection by 1946 by the International Whaling Commission. And after 57 years, almost a whole lifetime, Pacific gray whales were removed from the endangered list in 1994, the year I was born, which I think is so, so special because my whole life I felt so connected to them. So the fact that they were able to come back and have 26,000 gray whales is just a sign of just rehabilitation and how awesome it is that they were able to successfully come back and find a natural habitat again. With that being said, the really cool thing I think about what I have learned from the history of whaling, and obviously I am not an advocate for it, and it can be so detrimental to our ocean and these big giants that are, you know, almost our family. I think it's really crazy because people used to refer to them captains of, you know, whaling ships and whatnot. They used to call them devilfish. And the reason was because they used to be so aggressive, they would put up a fight for their calves when they were trying to whale them. And they would be, you know, they were so adamant about protecting themselves and protecting their young ones, that they were considered devilfish because of that fight. Well, now, you know, flash forward after they're no longer endangered, they're no longer being whaled over in this general area, they're actually considered to be these gentle giants of the sea. And I have a coworker yesterday who was kayaking in Trinidad, right, 20 minutes south of here, at that exact point where there used to be a whaling station. And he said he was kayaking and he had a whale, gray whale, come up to him, look him in the eye, and then swim underneath him right when he was kayaking above him. And I think that that's just this beautiful story of the whale tale, right? The migration of whales and their history. And I think I am so excited to share this story with you because not only are they my favorite marine mammal, but they are also just these magnificent, resilient beings. And I think that right now, more than ever, we are holding on to resilience and we are trying to prosper. And I think, you know, if you get the opportunity to see a gray whale in the ocean, remember where they came from and how well that they have succeeded and healed from, you know, years of pain and whatnot. And so I think together we can successfully kind of get through this time. And anyway, so you can see the pelicans back here. The harbor porpoises are just out there. And unfortunately, no gray whales wanted to come visit, but that is a-okay. I would love to leave some time for questions if anyone has any. Go ahead and feel free to dive in now. If not, I can show a few pictures while we wait. Here is an example of the baleen in the mouth of this gray whale, right? So that image that I just showed you, this that baleen right here. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Cool. So it doesn't look like it. Thank you. Oh, where am I located right now? That's a great question. So I am at the very most southern point of Redwood National and State Parks. I am currently across the street from Freshwater Lagoon, and I am in California, Northern California, in the United States. So anyway, I think, thank you. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for everyone for the feedback. And I am so looking forward to another season next year with State Parks and being able to do more of these. So thank you guys for joining, and I hope you all have a great day. It is an absolutely beautiful day.